All right. So welcome. This is our first, well, we had the kickoff call. This is our first like synchronous call for Career Lab where we're actually doing something other than just talking about a schedule. So I'm excited for Crystal to kind of just, I mean, it's really more of a Q&A session. You all have been working on your LinkedIn's over the last couple of days, watching Crystal's amazing videos and following her instructions and doing those kinds of things. And I know Alejandro had some questions that he put in Slack earlier, and but anybody who has questions, like maybe we can maybe start with his, and then as other people have questions, either you can put them in the chat so we don't lose them, or you can just kind of raise your hand and ask or whatever. Crystal, I think you're probably okay with it being a little informal, right?
Yeah, totally fine. Okay. Yeah. Hi, everybody. I would really love to start with Alejandro's questions. So I'm going to address some things. I am not Spanish. I've never worked in Spanish, so there's some things that I may not know. Okay. So if I'm not sure, please don't quote my word on it. Andrew or Alejandro, the other Alejandro, would be able to help with this. Okay. So number one is the title. Is there any difference between front-end engineer, front-end developer, front-end software developer, and software engineer titles? Okay, so what I have to say to this question is, yes, there is a difference, and it comes from the traditional school education system, okay? So engineers were considered as people who had done the 5 years of training in a typical university. Okay, so when you get to the master's level, you are considered an engineer. Okay, so for example, I have a master's degree in computer science, so I am a computer engineer. Okay, now that changed over time because we started seeing boot camps coming and more industries that didn't actually like this traditional way of learning. Okay, so we started generalizing it, and to be honest, today, in my opinion, there seems to be no real difference between these titles, okay? As long as you can code and write code, we're happy with that. So which title would you prefer to use in your LinkedIn profile then? I would recommend the one that you want as a keyword for a recruiter to find you. Okay, so if I am a developer, I would prefer as a developer to put full stack developer in my title because I know that every recruiter knows the word developer, especially if they're a technical recruiter. Yeah, so this is something that I would prefer to put in my title. I would put full stack as well if I am looking for a full stack role. But remember that when you put full stack, you also want to put the technologies that you want to specialize in because full stack exists in all the technologies. Yeah. If it's JavaScript, Ruby, React, Rails, like where do you want to go with that? Okay. Alejandro, did that answer your question? Your first question. Is Alejandro on the call? Sorry, I'm not sure.
Yeah, he is here. He's muted at the moment, but.
So just to recap, there used to be differences. Basically, at this point, they're kind of all the same, but what you should on your LinkedIn is like whatever role you specifically want. So if you were looking for something with an engineering role, like maybe you notice at the company that you want to work for that all of their developers are called engineers, then you should lean towards using engineer so that they will find you.
Yeah, basically, yes, that's the idea. And if you want a front end role, it's always good to have in your title front end. Okay, if you want a back end role, the same thing as well. Okay.
Can I say one more thing about the titles? Yeah, I've noticed this too. And like I know at Zapier, we use the title engineer, but it's not because people have formal backgrounds necessarily. Some do, but it's because we want people to think of themselves as engineers, like take it seriously and be methodical and those kinds of things. So I think you're it's spot on what you're saying about they're like properly trained engineers probably take a little bit of an affront at the fact that anybody can have an engineer title nowadays, but it is kind of very common across the industry for those to be interchangeable.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I didn't know. Okay, so the second question is, in the feature and accomplishment section, I put in both sections my personal projects with the unique difference in the feature section being an image. Is this okay? Are they the same purpose or is there a difference? So to answer this question, it is perfectly okay to have the same projects in your project section, in your accomplishment section and your featured section. What is the difference? On average, it takes a recruiter 10 to 20 seconds to see a LinkedIn profile. 10 to 20 seconds. So by the time they get to the project section at the bottom, they've lost interest. Yeah. So you want to make sure that your LinkedIn profile in the first 10 seconds, they get the maximum amount of publicity from you. They know exactly what you do. They know exactly the projects you've built, and they know they're interested or not. That is why the featured section is really, really important. Okay. All right. Third question. Any advice to request and give recommendations? Is there a format? Oh yeah, okay, so this is a really good question. And there's actually no format. I've never used a format. I just give recommendation based on how I feel about someone, but maybe you're right. Maybe we should actually have a format. I'm not sure. I'm going to turn to Andrew for this question because I'm not too sure.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. I typically, yeah, I don't use any kind of standard format either when I give recommendations, but I think it could be something where, like what we could do, let's see, we could go back and poll a few and see if there are common things that we typically say, right? Because what I try to do is try to, think of, like what are the, like really like focus on the person's strengths. I mean, it's probably the top thing that I do. So like, what are they really good at? And what did I enjoy about working with them? And I always try to hit something that's technical, has to do with job skills, as well as sort of how they work on a team. So I always try to have both of those things present, but beyond that, I don't really have a formula for it.
That's kind of like the same thing I've always done in mine. It's like, because you want to keep it like somewhat short and digestible so people actually read it. And so I'll often like find myself finding 3 things that I really enjoyed working with them about, and then like start, like when you're in school and they're like, give an intro and then expand on each of the things you mentioned in your intro and then wrap it up. So I follow that same kind of format. And then in the wrap up, I always like to say something about like, this person would be like a treasure to any team that they join, or like say something about like, if you're hiring, like I recommend this person. So like wrap it up.
Yeah.
That's true. Actually, yeah. Like I would like to work with this person again. Is something I feel like is a really strong, statement of support.
Yes, very true. Okay, thank you for that. All right, the last question from Alejandro. I speak Spanish, and for example, I have a course in Spanish. Should I translate the title of the course or education institution, or is it not recommended? Okay, so I have a few Spanish students, and some of them actually leave the Spanish degrees and certificates exactly the way they are. Okay, so it really depends on the type of role you're looking for. I would say if you are looking for a role in an English-speaking organization or in an English-speaking country, then yes, please translate the names, at least the names of the titles, okay, in English, just so they know, okay, this is a master's degree in computer science, for example, okay? You don't need to translate the name of the educational institution, okay? That is the name of the institution, it's not going anywhere, okay? But just the name of the title so that they get an idea of that, okay? If you prefer to apply to more Spanish or local based companies where they speak your language, yes, then you can leave it in Spanish as well, okay?
That probably helps too, like translating the title for like recruiters finding you too, because they're probably searching in English.
Yes.
Could you have it in Spanish / have it in English and all as one title? Would that be valid?
Yeah, definitely. That could be a really good idea. I didn't think of that.
If you're an English speaker and you're looking for a role that maybe includes like another language, would it be a good idea to do that in that situation as well?
Yes, definitely. The other way around, if you're English and you're looking for a Spanish role or in another language, I would definitely recommend trying to translate as much as possible. Yeah.
Nice. There are a bunch of really good questions in the chat. So
okay.
Yeah, if we go back up, I have a multi-year gap in my resume due to health issues. How should I handle that when adding my job experience?
Oh, okay. All right. So really, really good question. My advice here is you don't need to lie to anyone. You can be as honest as possible and you will still find a job. Okay. We don't need to be this perfect, oh, I have to fill all the gaps in my experience. Okay. So on your LinkedIn, it's probably going to show that you have a gap from the last time you had an experience. Okay. So what you can do is leave it like that. You can leave the gap like that. And if they ever contact you, you can explain why. Okay. Or you can fill in something that you were doing during that time. Okay. So I know that you may have had health issues, but was there something that you were actually working on at that time or doing at that time that you could include? Even if it was taking care of your family, you can actually put that there. You can put something like a job break or career break, taking care of my family, something like that. Yeah. It's part of your experience as well. We don't need to hide it. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
No worries. Okay, so yeah, Andrew, would you like to add to that?
Oh, no, I think that's great. Yeah, that's perfect. I was just
Okay.
going to kind of keep kind of reading off things from the chat. So Alejandro, did you feel like you got your questions answered? So you were saying engineers formal computer science, boot camp is more of like a developer. It depends on what you're looking for, what you'll put in your title, or yeah, in your titles. I think that's probably about right. Okay. Anyway,
I'm also answers and notes in Notion too.
Okay, great. And so Brittany asks, have you ever run into issues where an NDA may limit what you can write in the bullet points in your experience section?
That's a really good question. And I haven't experienced that issue yet, to be honest.
Yeah, having worked at Apple, yeah, for sure.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Please tell us, Andrew, your experience on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially if you're in the job at the time, like now that I'm not at Apple, I'm a little more free to kind of say what I worked on, but that's a company that really values secrecy and, you know, and that kind of thing. And that's maybe a little extreme, and probably more common is that you won't be able to put codes, you know, you won't have a lot of code examples depending on the company. They may want their code to stay private. So in that case, you know, if you're asked for a code sample or something by someone who's interviewing you, you might have to explain, like, you know, I can't show you my work examples, but maybe here's a side project I did or something.
And in that extreme example, like with Apple, how did you, were you still able to on LinkedIn, like display your skills or what you were working in some way?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely describe, you know, like high level, the kinds of things I was doing. So, you know, I was, you know, managing web developers and that kind of thing. I could talk about that. Once projects launched, I could link to the live out in the public projects. Sometimes the most interesting things were the things I was doing at the moment, which I couldn't share at the time, right? Until they launched. So.
Is there something like that you are thinking you want to include that you're not sure is okay? Or are you like, do you need help kind of talking through like what you're doing and finding ways to like kind of generalize it and make it a little more like high level and less specific?
I'm just always like super paranoid that I'm somehow like doing something wrong. In my situation, I guess I'm specifically wondering, like, is it okay for me to talk about the tech stack, even if I can't talk about the specific companies or projects? But other than that, no, I think I just was curious about like if others had experienced that. So I guess that's one thing I'm wondering.
I feel like it's totally fine to like talk about things as long as it's not like, you know, like you could talk about like I used React and Cypress to make sure the code that we were, you know, like, I don't know, like just don't say specifically what the project was, but still talk about the goals maybe. Does that make sense? I don't think that would be against any NDA. I think as long as you're not sharing like the specifics of, we made sure that our users were secure because we were getting, you know, these kinds of attacks and stuff. It's like,
and you know, if you are, I mean, your company, you know, should be happy to kind of clarify those things too. So
yeah, Completely
All right.
agree.
So the answer
Okay.
is like, you might not be able to have code to show from work, but you could do side projects as far as the code. And if you can talk about like stacks and high level stuff, but if you're concerned, maybe ask somebody at your company.
Mhm. Yeah, starting with your manager probably. Yeah. All right, so yeah, Rachel asks, how far back should your job history go? I have years and years of job history and should include education where you completed years but didn't obtain a degree.
There were two questions. Sorry. I
Oh,
just
okay.
not clear. One was about the education and not obtaining degree, and the other, yeah.
Okay.
All right. So how far back should the job history go? Now, what I would say to this is include job history that is relevant to the job that you want to get. Okay. If you've done 20 jobs in your life and only 5 of them are important to development, put those 5 there. Yeah. That's the job that you want, and you're showing the recruiter that you have experience in that job. Okay. And the other question was, yes, even if you haven't completed a degree, please put it on your LinkedIn. Yeah, the end certificate at the end of a training is just a piece of paper, okay? But you have spent time learning throughout that training, okay? So it's really important to put that as well, even if you didn't get the degree. And when you put that on your LinkedIn, you can even write bullet points of everything that you have learned during your time in that training. Okay. All right, I hope that answered your question, Rachel.
Can I ask
No,
a
that's
quick?
great. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick add-on question to Rachel's question? In
Yes,
regards to having jobs that are relevant to what you're trying to seek, what if you have a lot of jobs where they aren't relevant to your current career field?
Okay, very good question. Okay, so what we're going to try and do here is what we call transferable skills. Okay, you are still going to list those jobs, even though they are not related to your field, but you're going to find the skills that are necessary in the tech industry and that you acquired in those jobs. Okay, so I have a student who was a musician and he didn't know how to write his LinkedIn. Okay, but one thing musicians do is that they work in a band. So obviously he had team communication skills. They had to be organized to go and do their gigs together. They had to do marketing promotions to be able to market themselves properly to earn money. All these skills, even though they are not in a tech field, they are still used in the tech field. Okay, so it's really important to list your experiences, even though they are not related. But in the bullet points of your experiences, you're going to try and make sure you highlight transferable skills that you learned in those experiences and that are useful to the tech industry. Did that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Cool. Hajar asks, what do you think we should avoid adding on LinkedIn? Also, what do you think are considered red flags in an interview? So 2 questions.
Okay, all right. Wow, what do you think we should avoid adding on LinkedIn? Any links to your Facebook? No, we don't want to link to Facebook. We don't want to show them our private lives, okay? Anything that a bad photo does not help. What else should you not include on your LinkedIn? I'm not sure. I just feel like the LinkedIn structure, like if you follow it, it's just super simple to follow, okay? And there's not a lot of room to add things in, okay? The only place that I would say don't add strange things is your experience, but like when I say experience, I'm talking like really strange experiences where the recruiter will be like, wow, what did they do there? I'm not too sure. This is legal, you know? So those are the strange ones. But honestly, LinkedIn has a very good structure. So there's not many things that can go wrong on your LinkedIn profile. And as you know, the mentors here will be reviewing your profiles before you go to job searching, okay? So don't worry too much. If there's anything you include that is not meant to be there, we will tell you. Okay.
And then the other question is, what do you think are considered red flags in an interview? And I mean, we could, if you have an answer for this, it's great. We also are going to have another session where we talk about how to sort of rock the interview and stuff too. But
Oh, okay, yes. Okay, very good. I might have red flags on this in the behavioral side, but as Andrew said, we will answer this later. The major red flag I see is when you're in an interview, talking about money, salary negotiation, first of all, is not a good thing, okay? Even though money is important to us, we want to make sure that our motivation and determination for the role stands out first before we start talking about money. So when a company asks you, do you have any more questions for us? Please don't start with what's the salary going to be. Okay, that is a red flag. All right. Also, the way you dress for an interview, even though it's on Zoom, you still want to look professional. You still want to carry yourself professionally. You want to make sure that your room is well lit and that you're very presentable to the recruiter. Okay, so those are just two red flags that I've noticed very quickly.
Good, good. Let's see. People are saying how much they appreciate you and your videos and everything. And then a question regarding this: there are certifications that by default have the name in Spanish, so they can't be translated. Is that a problem?
Okay, so I think this comes back to Alejandro's question. And no, you don't need to translate them. Okay, but if you know, so if you took a degree and a training and you know what you learned in that training, okay? For example, I'm going to take a training in Spanish on how to be a great Ruby developer, but it's in Spanish, right? You can translate the title yourself, okay, and write that in your LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be an official translation, okay? If there's no way to translate the title, just leave it as it is, okay? The certifications and the education section is at the bottom of your LinkedIn. And for a recruiter to have gotten there, it means that your experience and the featured section and your title have already interested them, okay? So don't worry too much about that section. Like it's not the most important thing that will define your whole career. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Oh, and she gives an example. There's a Latin American platform called Platzi, and the courses are in Spanish, certifications are in Spanish, everything is in Spanish by default. So, but it sounds like what you're saying too is that you could list that, but then list in English the skills that you learned, and that would still help with the keyword recognition and things, right?
Yes, so just translating it for yourself. What are the skills that I learned? How many hours did I spend learning this? So for example, my students spent 2,000 hours learning to code, built 8 projects, did pair programming in a remote environment. So they're basically listing all their skills in the education section, even if the degree is in another language, or the certificate or the training is in another language.
All right. And Chiamaka asks, I use React developer as my job title instead of front-end developer. I did this to make clear the framework I'm proficient in. Is anything wrong with that?
Okay, nothing wrong at all. It's actually really good, okay, in your title. So Chiamaka, are you talking about the title in LinkedIn at the top where you can use like pipes to separate your title?
No,
yes.
not that area. Like I wrote that. Hello.
Yes,
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, it's the area where I wrote that I was a freelancer. So
Okay.
that part of experience, job title, yeah.
Okay, yes, that is perfectly fine to do it there, to write React developer. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? Just a little quick trick, if you want to be considered for more roles, okay? In the top title where you have the pipes, you can write front-end developer, pipe, React, pipe, JavaScript, pipe, because what we're just doing is we're playing with keywords. We know that recruiters are going to use keywords to search for people. So we're trying to get as many keywords as possible in our profile without overloading it. You don't want 30 keywords in your title. Okay.
Yeah, well, and you probably don't want to get picked up by recruiters who are looking for something like Java when you know JavaScript or something, right? So
exactly, yes. Yeah, totally.
Don't put things in there that you don't want to work on.
Yes, exactly. We're not going to go to GraphQL and Python when we're not interested in that. Yeah. So it's just staying with the ones that you know that you're really interested in. Okay.
All right. And Alejandro has another question about the job experience section. So we use technical language, especially tech keywords, or more common language for a recruiter in the job experience
Okay.
section?
Okay, yes. So yes, I think I talked about this in the video. Please try and use very simple sentences that a recruiter can understand. Okay, so very simple. But even though they are simple, remember to try and include keywords from time to time. For example, I'm a code reviewer. That's my title. Okay. Reviewed 200, performed 200 code reviews in 2 weeks. That's a very simple statement, yeah? But I've used the word code review because I'm a code reviewer and I know that the recruiter is going to look for code reviewers who do code reviews, okay? I can say something like built an API or built a Ruby on Rails API with an extension in React, I don't know, okay? So I'm using the word API, okay, because I know that it's a technical term, but my sentence is still very simple, okay? What we don't want are sentences that are so complicated that the recruiter is thinking, I don't understand what this person has done. I literally don't understand. Yeah. You don't want to leave them like that. Okay. Did that answer your question, Alejandro?
Yes, he says yes in the chat. Yeah, I'll echo that. Yeah, it's like the recruiters that I know are typically, they're handed a list of, you know, kind of frameworks and skills and those kinds of things from the hiring manager. So, you know, if your sentence includes those things, but otherwise is understandable, that's probably the best of both worlds.
Yes, and please, when you're doing your experience section, like I said in the video, always start with action verbs. Like, this is what I did: built, performed, created, developed. These are really actions that recruiters like to hear. Okay, so always starting with action verbs is really, really important, and that will help guide your sentence as well.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So I've noticed that there are times I've worked in companies that are like larger named, but like completely irrelevant to tech. And what I've noticed is that people will reach out and then they'll ask me, oh, hey, so I see you worked for so-and-so company, but they assume that it was a tech role, even though it clearly describes what I was doing. Is there any way to be more specific, even though I kind of feel like I was specific, but I just want to avoid like those awkward conversations of like, oh yeah, no, that wasn't a role where I was developing, but I am a developer.
Okay, all right. So currently, what is the title of your role for that experience? What is the title that's on your LinkedIn?
I believe it is receptionist.
Receptionist, okay. And what is the detail in the bullet points?
So the details, give me 1 second.
Okay.
So it's just like a general overview. It says like overseeing guest access preparation for Slack HQ events, managing multiple Slack channels, assisting upper management with meetings, and triple checking meetings.
Okay, all right. So you've been very clear on your side. Your title is perfect. You were a receptionist, okay? The bullet points are clear. You were not developing. There's no mention of code. There's no mention of anything, okay? Unfortunately, we cannot stop that from happening because you worked in a tech company. So there are some recruiters who will not pay attention to that, and they will just research tech companies and they will find you and they will message you. We can't stop that from happening. But what you can do when they message you is to reiterate in your message to them and say, oh, thank you so much for messaging me. I just want to be clear that in this role, I was a receptionist and I was not a developer. And now I'm looking for this role, and this role. Okay. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that sounds
all right. Good. So you're very clear to the point. You tell them straight away. Okay. And then they know, okay, we are not the same fit, or she's a good fit for us.
Thank you.
You might too, like, you know, like have yourself a snippet that you can send out every time, just tweak a little bit and use those transferable skills in that message to say like, I wasn't a developer, I was a receptionist, but this gave me some really key skills in working on a team of, you know, people who manage developers or whatever it might be, and just try and be like, So if you have any roles that would fit for a, level 1 engineer or something, I would be happy to talk to you more.
Yeah, very good. I like
Right.
that.
Thank you.
And I guess there was a question on Slack. So, hey people, I'm trying to update my LinkedIn profile. In which section should I put open source contributions? Under experience or accomplishments?
Ah, yes, good question. Okay. So I would really suggest under experience. It is part of your experience, even though you are not paid for it, even though you were not hired by a company for it, you worked for it. It's an experience. So I would recommend putting it in your experience section. And when you put it there, please don't just put built a project in open source. Try and expand it as much as possible. What was the project? What did you contribute? How many people did you work with? Yeah. Did you do unit testing? Things like that. It's really important to expand our non-professional experience so that people can see that we still have experience, okay, and it is still valuable.
That's great. Good questions, everybody.
Yeah, really.
How are the? Oh, do you have one, Rachel?
I have one question. So my boot camp, or I guess they call themselves an engineering fellowship, they said to put it under experience, everything we've learned. Do you think that that's still like, should it go under experience, or do you think it should go under education, or both, or like, do you have any feelings about that?
Okay, all right. So everything you've learned, that's interesting. That is
Everything you
really
learned at the boot camp, you mean, or?
Yeah, I guess they said, because I'm looking at mine now and I realized that I still have it under experience, because what they wanted from us for our LinkedIn was like, I think, yeah, to list to under experience. Not every, as opposed to education. But I'm thinking,
I wonder, was that mostly so that it would be higher up on the page or something?
Probably.
Yeah.
I was just thinking now, because now I have like 2 experiences with Collab Lab, and I have some open source experience that I could move it to education. I don't know.
Okay.
Did anyone else have this? Like, has anyone else have theirs under experience or education, or?
I know at some point I had the same question, and like, I feel like the way that I went, and I don't know where it is now, but was like, if you do have other experience to push it out, that's more valuable and more collaborative and shows that you work on a team, move it to education because it's like less relevant. But if you're in a position where you did just get out of boot camp and you don't really have other things to show, maybe keep it up top to show that you do have that developer experience under your belt. I don't know though. I'm not the expert here.
I'm not an expert either. But I really, what I really want to stress here is the education section is at the bottom of LinkedIn. And it is super important, like positioning in marketing is super important. If you go to the store today, you will notice that the famous products are mostly put on the middle shelf or top shelves of the store. The products that don't sell too well are mostly put on the bottom. Why? Because the middle shelf is at our eye level, okay? And we're going to see those ones and we're going to take them. And companies pay more to have the middle section of the store, okay? So this is a trick in marketing, and it's something that I really want you to consider when you're doing your profiles. If you don't have a lot of experience, make sure you put anything tech related in your experience section. Anything you've done, you want to be seen, okay? The recruiter is going to spend 10 seconds reading profiles, and they don't have time to just go all the way to the bottom, okay? So you want to make sure that you stand out straight from the beginning, okay? And then give them something to look at in the education section. So in the video I did, you may have noticed that I was actually watching a video. So everything that I recorded was something that I learned from a video from Danny Thompson. And Danny Thompson has never gotten a degree in engineering. He has actually never applied for a job before, and he got 6 job offers. Why? Because he knew how to market himself, okay? Basically, he attended a meetup and he attended one meetup and he put that in his experience section. Yeah, because he knew how to sell himself. Now, I'm not saying just put anything there, okay? It's you have spent time at Collab Lab, you have gathered some experiences, you have built projects. Yes, build on that, showcase that, market that, show it to the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super helpful. Thank you.
No worries.
Okay.
There's more question.
Yeah, Alejandro has another question. There, I mean, people were saying a little bit about, like Shiamaka said, her software development training is under education. Should she move it? Yeah, there's some other kind of people wondering about that as well. But it sounds like we've kind of answered it.
Yeah.
And then, so then Alejandro asks again. So I participated in a code competition organized by some companies, and they give recognition for the participation. I'd like to put it on my LinkedIn, but I saw only I can put one institution. Oh, I see. So there were many companies involved, but you can only put one institution.
Oh,
But there must have been a group that was organizing the competition, maybe? Maybe that's who you listed under as experience, and then you list the companies involved as bullet points or something?
Yeah, because what is the name of the organization? And yeah, because you have the name of the organization, I think you can list it under, just like Andrew said, and then list all the companies that were involved in that in the bullet points. Did that make sense, Alejandro? I'm not sure.
Yeah, could you list it as whatever the name of the, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Hacktoberfest. Yeah, there you go.
Hacktoberfest. Perfect. Okay, so code competition, Hacktoberfest
Organized.
2020.
It's
Okay.
by DigitalOcean, yeah. That's like the main.
Yeah. And then in your bullet points, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sorry, I keep cutting you off. But yeah, so you say organized by DigitalOcean, Dev2, whoever, and then maybe list the thing that you did. Is that what you were going to say, Crystal? Sorry.
Yes, that was exactly what I was going to say, yes.
Cool. That's a great question too. How has it been for you actually getting in and writing and rearranging and all that kind of stuff? Are you finding it, are you running into any kind of struggles or anything with the actual kind of writing of things? I sometimes find it hard to describe what I've done.
Me too. Me too.
I almost feel like I need someone else to write it for me.
I was making a lot of changes yesterday as I was watching the videos. I would like watch a video, make a change, and I forgot that I had like notify your network for changes. So I kept sending out all these notifications, and I was like, oh no, because I get very embarrassed easily, but I've just had to accept it, that it's fine. And so I changed as like, I'm a developer at the Collab Lab, but I wrote like front end because I kept making changes and refining it. So I turned that off. Shane showed me how.
Nice.
So, but it was actually really, I thought the setup of it, Crystal, was fantastic because I like went through the first video and then I kind of just like wrote down in notes what I wanted to put it up there, went through the second video, kind of did the same. And yeah, and then I think I was mentioning earlier in the chat that I was able to go back, especially when you were talking about how the experience should just have one line, like visually. I think that's really important, and mine didn't, so I still need to work on that a little bit, but just kind of getting in that recruiter's mindset as opposed to like hire me was helpful. So I really loved those videos, and thank you. Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
I posted this in Slack too. I really have loved the format of this, how people can watch the videos and take time to do work and then come here to this session, like synchronous session with really thoughtful questions and stuff that cause a discussion. I like that. So I think we should apply more career lab stuff maybe. Like I'm thinking of the like how to tell your story bit. It's like, can we do some videos and some reading on that and then come together to like brainstorm and workshop?
Yeah.
Ooh, Brittany has a very practical question here about having some issues getting images to show up for items in my featured section. For example, an application I worked on an internship and the Collab Lab project. I'm selecting the links section. It's not giving me the option to add an image.
A student taught me this last week and now I've forgotten what it is. Is it metadata? You have to put like a metadata tag in your code to pull the image so that it shows on LinkedIn.
Oh, is it Open Graph?
That's
Is that Open Graph tags
Yeah.
maybe?
I'm not sure. Okay, I have to go and find that out because
Mm.
some of my students struggle with this as well.
One I can't remember which somebody from that team is probably on this call, but one of the teams added Open Graph tags to their Collab Lab project so that who
My
was it?
team.
Yeah, yeah,
CL19. Yeah.
nice.
So it's
So that
Open Graph. It's still the meta tags that will contain the information, a picture, the description, and everything.
Yep. So and then what that does is it makes it easy for sites like LinkedIn to pull in a little preview, or whatever the image is that's specified in the Open Graph tag will get pulled through
Okay.
and as a preview. Yep.
Oh, that's so
over that snippet or something so I can put it in the notes.
Yeah, I mean it's Open Graph image and Open Graph description. It's I can dig up just like ogp.me, I think is the website, if I'm remembering right. Hopefully that's right, and that's not like, is it okay? You never know with the internet,
I
right?
would actually I would love to learn how to do that, to be honest.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, when you were saying all this stuff, I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'll link to
Really?
this.
We have Open Graph tags on all of our stuff. But yeah, if we look at TCL19's kind of their project, we can pull it out of there and use that as an example.
I have a follow-up.
You're saying put Open Graph tags in your actual GitHub code.
In the actual application, yeah. And that way, when you link to the application, it'll show up.
I thought you were saying put it in your LinkedIn featured section somehow. That's why I was like, what? Okay.
Can I have a follow-up with that? So some of them that I wanted to link that I didn't, like I do some writing and I wrote some stuff about like ethics on Medium, and I tried to link it in my feature section. I'm gonna link it under the publication, but and it just came back with my picture, and I didn't want just like more pictures of me, as did my GitHub under the feature section. It's just come back with my picture. And so yeah, I guess I too was having some things with the feature I understand how we can solve that if I'm writing the code and putting those OG tags in, but should I still link to my GitHub repository even though it just shows my picture?
Okay, yes, I would still link, even though it just shows your picture. I know that it's less powerful in a way because it doesn't show a project that you built, but it's still better than not having anything that links to your GitHub at all.
Yeah, as a hiring manager, I want to, if you are willing to share your GitHub, I want to see it. So it's much easier for me just to be able to click through. Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, your GitHub has to be in the featured section no matter what.
Okay.
As for the Medium article you talked about that is not showing your face, in the Medium article, do you have an image in the article?
No, I don't, but I should probably add something.
Yes, you will need. Yes, you need to add an image. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, that's probably what's happening is it defaults to your profile image if you don't have another image.
Maybe I should do that for my GitHub too. Put in like a picture of a project or something.
Yeah, I really don't know how that works because it's going to pull the same picture of projects for each project you showcase in the featured section. So that might be a bit complicated. I need to find out how to do this.
Yeah, I don't know if GitHub gives you that kind of control or not, but it'd be good to know.
Yeah, I was thinking that I could just make my profile picture a picture of a project for a while while looking.
Oh, interesting.
Like maybe a picture of the project we just worked on or something, just for a while I'm job searching.
That's a clever workaround.
And yes, if any techniques don't work for you, if you try something and it doesn't work, then you can always change it around, right? So if you put an experience in the experience section and it's not working for you, you can move it to the education section and just play around with your profile. The most important thing when you look at your profile is to go to your personal dashboard. After 2 weeks of job searching, go to your dashboard and click on search appearances. So you're going to click on the people who have actually looked for your profile. And when you click on it, scroll down to the bottom where it says people who viewed your profile. Okay. and then it will say what they do, and it will show you 29% recruiters, 15% CEOs, 0%, I don't know what. If you find out that recruiters are not going to your profile, then we have to change something on your profile to start attracting recruiters. Okay.
One workaround I was thinking for those images that show up in the featured section is, could you on your own personal website have a page for each project with the image and link to that page on your personal site? Pull in that image, and then from the page on your personal site, link to GitHub, link to live project, link to whatever.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, that could probably work actually. Yeah.
Then you have to build that, but it's just more practice. It's good.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Or like, I mean, even if you were just building that, it doesn't have to be anything flashy. It could literally just be like, you know, a quick little GitHub hosted page, essentially, right?
Could it be a GitHub posted page and still get the preview image that you want?
You can put that open graph tag, right?
Well, I guess, yeah, you have control over those, all the code in those pages, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brittany wants you to include that in the notes.
Okay.
Cool.
Any other questions?
Yeah, any other questions? I feel like this has been amazing, Crystal. It's been so good.
I love it.
I have another question.
Yeah.
I realized after watching your videos that I have massively neglected my LinkedIn. I haven't even put Collab Lab on my LinkedIn, and I'm kind of embarrassed by that because I appreciate Collab Lab very much. So I was just curious, what does everyone put for the title for what you've done with Collab Lab, like when you initially do the project, I guess, because I know people have been working with Collab Lab afterwards.
I'd put front-end developer or something, probably.
Yeah, I'd put developer, but then after watching these videos, I changed it to front-end developer because that's where I want to get my job. And then I wrote it as an internship.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I would definitely say developer.
Yeah, I would say, like, I don't even know if I would put it as internship. I would almost think of it more as like open source work. Like, because it's legit work, you know, like in the same, like, I feel like when you think of an internship, it's like this person's like going to school or learning, but I feel like y'all are so much more than that. Like, you're just working on a team of developers to build an app together. Like, it's the same thing that you do.
Yeah.
Open source.
Open source or?
Like, internships are important, obviously, but I feel like there's like a stigma around the idea that like if you're an intern, you're less experienced or something. But you all got amazing experience, like real developer experience where people weren't like holding your hands. You did the work like on your own. Like, there were mentors, like you'd have a manager, but it wasn't like written out for you. You did all the thinking.
And that is super important. Super important.
And I have one more question that might just be specifically, and it might relate to Allie too, because I know Allie mentors and has done it, but how do I include both the regular project and the advanced project in like the same thing? Do I include it in the same thing? And that can also be like taken offline. It doesn't need to be answered now. I was just trying to think of the format of it.
For you, it might be one experience, developer at Collab Lab, and then you list the two projects because they were kind of right back to back, you know, and so it's contiguous, yeah. If there was a gap and you did something else in between, maybe it's two different experiences. I don't know, Crystal, does that make sense?
Yeah, I would definitely do that. So I would put the Collab Lab experience, and in that experience, list the two projects you worked on. And in those two projects you list the technologies you used, and the skills that you learned there. For example, I don't know, mentoring, teamwork, pair programming, like everything.
Technologies that you use, be sure to put those in there.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Nice. Cool. Well, thank you, everybody. This has been amazing. If you have other questions, you know, if things come up, you know, as you're finishing up your LinkedIn profiles, definitely throw those questions in Slack. The next thing is that you will want to do is get in touch with, Stacy has listed out all the pairings for the mentor reviews of the LinkedIn profile. So when you feel like you're ready, you know, reach out to your mentor pair person and just let them know, like send them the link and ask them to give that review. So,
and so when they review that too. Crystal's put together a really great rubric that they'll be following, so they can provide you with that rubric. And feel free to have, like, I know we're like, keep everything in public at Collab Lab for transparency and stuff, but this could just get real messy real fast. So feel free to just direct message and get that feedback in direct messages and stuff. Don't worry about that. But yeah, reach out to that person. They'll fill out a rubric and you can have a conversation with the mentors who are reviewing your stuff. And then what's after that? Then we move on to interviewing stuff, right?
Well, then we, on Sunday, we'll be talking about the take-home assignment. So we'll have a little meeting to kind of review that, like kind of get you all set up to do that. Then you'll work on that for a couple of days, and then we will get into how to interview well, and then mock interviews. And oh yeah, I get to interview Alejandro Yanez in front of all of you live, so that's going to be fun. So, but yeah, for now.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to ask you, Andrew, if one of the mentors, the technical mentors, could help us with this GitHub image thing, or do you think it's okay to?
Yeah, Stacy can figure it out.
Oh, awesome! Thank you, Stacy. That's cool.
Yeah. No, it's a great question. I think it's probably as simple as adding some open graph tags to your GitHub pages. So.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
So I see that under the like sync review of like LinkedIn profile and resume, do we just want to share our LinkedIn profile with them now, or do we want to do resume? Are they related? Are they different? I don't.
Go ahead.
We decided to focus just on LinkedIn this time. Maybe in a future Career Lab we'll do resumes as well, but just kind of in the interest of time, we're just doing LinkedIn's for now.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Okay.
And I mean, just in my experience, like I never look at people's resumes. I only look at their LinkedIn's, their GitHubs. So maybe not every hiring manager is like that, but it's probably 80%.
Also, I feel like a lot of the advice that you're getting on LinkedIn profiles can definitely be applied to resumes as well. And although we can't be like, send it to your mentor and expect that mentor to, like, who's doing your LinkedIn to look at it too, definitely post it in Collab Lab, Slack, and like your peers here can look over it, mentors, anybody, we're all kind of in this together just to give extra eyes on things. So don't shy away from posting it somewhere, but maybe in the like job search channel or something, post it and be like, can I get feedback from anybody on this?
Absolutely.
Go take a look.
Cool. All right, I will post the video soon, a little bit later. And but thank you so much. Thanks, Crystal, for all your hard work on this.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Amazing. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.